Hololive. Now let me preface this by saying that there's a lot of inconsistencies throughout 31 days because I was really pushing myself. But out of the 31 pieces, there's probably around like 9 or 8, I think, that I really like that I'll talk about a lot more. Other than that, I would just like to thank Eofi for coming up with all these prompts, and I can't wait to do even better in next year's. And hopefully I'll even finish on time. But yeah, let's get into it. So for the first one, day 1, none, I chose Noelle, and if you can tell, it's Pinocchio P's Godish, like art style. And yeah, I like this one overall, even though you can't really tell it's Noelle. But the one thing I really do like detail is, added little Noelle flair reference there. But hey, I think it's pretty cool. Day 2, nurse, I chose Kyla. And yep, it's just one of those sketches that nothing too crazy about. Eyes are cool. Get some help reference, even though it looks pretty, it doesn't look too well, but that's just how most of them are. This one, I use a 3D model. I use a 3D model on a lot of them just so I can understand the perspective better. And this one could have been really nice if the hair did not look like breakable twigs. Lighting though, solid for the most part. And of course, this is Zeta, day 3, ballerina. Now this, I'll just say it here, this is the only male I drew, and of course it is the gender bend version of Shion. Not that I don't like the Hollow Stars, of course I love the Hollow Stars, but I just don't have a lot of practice drawing dudes, so of course the one dude I drew was the gender bend version of Shion. It's pretty sussy. It was really fun to draw though, and I think it looks great overall, besides, this arm and hand that do not make any sense. Doesn't really, this arm should definitely be pointing upwards. Other than that, not bad. Zombie Choco looking down on you, this is very fun to draw. Again, I use a 3D model, so we're at the low angle view. The only thing I would change, honestly, is making everything except for her head a darker color on multiply. And it looks a little too speckled here. But other than that, I think it's a really cool piece. I wish I did more textured background on the pieces that are completely blank. And speaking of pieces that are completely blank, this Suisei one, of course, I wish I did something more with the background. Also, I was referencing a different artist. Their name is Ratatatat74, I think, for a lot of the pieces, starting from this one and then on. If you know who they are, they're a sussy artist. It's NSFW plus 18. I just want to let everyone know that. This one's not terrible. It kind of doesn't make any sense. This is something that would happen on a nurse, but it's flight attendants, we say. I just wanted to add sussy gloves. I remember spending a little bit too much time on this for the outcome that actually came to be. Whoa, hey, yo. Yeah, this one's just another sketch. The background, just a picture. Nothing too much to say here. I'm still referencing Ratatatat with their sharp features. J.K. also does the same thing, which I reference a lot in my work in general. And we don't talk about this hand. This one's a little bit horny as well. I'd apologize, but I'm not sorry. Besides the obvious, the chromatic aberration I think was a nice touch to this piece because there's no background again. I don't know why I didn't just at least add speckles or texture or something. The eyes are pretty cool. I really like the way I shaded this because it's like really messy, but you can still tell like the fabric or whatever this texture is being pulled. I just wish the abdominals were a little more three-dimensional, and plus the Boros, very cute. I couldn't think of anything clever to do for secretary in a short amount of time, so I just chose Callie and gave her a dress shirt. That's about it. Nothing too crazy here. It's pretty just straightforward. I did reference J.K. and his way of doing hair that is like clumped up, but yet has a lot of textures and lines to signify that it's hair. Only thing I wish I would have done was maybe make her face a little bit bigger and have more strands of hair going over her body like I did here. Other than that, nothing crazy. All right, now this one's a little special because it's a witch Ina, obviously. It's pretty much just Ina with a giant witch hat, but what was challenging was the perspective of the face. I've never drawn in this perspective before, and that's why it looks not amazing, but I still think it looks pretty neat. Because I was referencing Ratatatat again, that's why the blush is a little bit more saturated than I would like. I definitely want to tone it down a little bit in the future, and I'm sorry if this area looks a little bit off, but if you check on Twitter or Pixiv, I did do more detail when she's wearing nothing at the top. And that was my first time doing sussy art, so I think it looks pretty good without the top. Now this one doesn't have a lot of rendering, but I really like the villainous feel that I gave Callie here with her like dead eyes and like looking to the side in you and like disgust, almost like she's gonna kill you. But I knew I wanted dramatic lighting from the bottom up, and the cool thing is I accidentally made it super vibrant by doubling whatever I used here. I think it might have been color dodge or glow dodge, whatever. I accidentally copy and pasted that layer. So before it looked a little bit too like not vibrant, like kind of dull. And I accidentally copied it and now it looks super vibrant, and I think it just adds so much. Not a perfect piece, of course, I know these are, but I really like the mood of this one. Let's not talk about this outfit swap. Of course I wanted to do me comment because Hochimachi Suisei is my Kamiyoshi. But this is whenever I started hitting a rock when it came to my creativity, and this just looks, let's just move on. This fauna one, the proportions are everywhere because I actually did maybe like 90% of this, or maybe 80%, I can't remember. I did it without looking at a reference, so the pose is kind of in my head. It's very similar to the Shion genderbend one, sort of, kinda. But, you know, hands are small, thighs are big, shoulders are way too wide, and the face looks a bit off. Gooba! Yes, there were no other candidates for the Cowboy Day besides Gura and Callie. But I decided that since I already drew Callie multiple times, I would draw Gooba. Unfortunately, you know, this hand looks a bit off, but this piece is pretty cool in general. There's nothing crazy about it. Again, I don't know why I keep leaving the backgrounds white, but I need to add more textures in my backgrounds like I did earlier before. I think I do it later, but yeah, it's whatever. This pose is kind of meh. Now this Ina piece is my gateway to 4th Wa. Not to say this is 4th Wa material, but this one's pretty cool in general. I like the fact that I blurred everything except for her face. I do wish I did more with the hair, and the elephant in the room is the fact that her arms and hands look a little too stiff. And if I wasn't too obvious about it, she is wearing Marine's outfit, except in her color scheme. That's why she's a little, you know, embarrassed. Now this one, for the most part, I really like. The only things I would change is the way the fish on top of her head looks, as well as the shapes in her eyes are a little bit too rounded. Like, of course, at the bottom of her eyes, you see that it's more angular shapes, but I wish the biggest part of her highlight, I wish that followed the angular shape. I think that would give it a lot more life. But the background that I painted with the koi fish and the blue, I think it works great. Before anyone corrects me, I've already corrected myself before, but this was a yukata day, and I'm pretty sure this is a kimono, but let's not talk about how uncultured I am. Now this one, I probably spent the most amount of time doing, and you might be wondering, how did you do that? Because there's no You know, there's no rendering on the maid outfit at all. Well, there are different versions like this one that I did. Obviously a lot more rendering under the clothes. And this is, you know, for me, I would consider it borderline NSFW. For a lot of people, it probably would be considered NSFW. But I turned her into a succubus, gave her a tail, gave her unusual pupils, and gave her a womb tattoo. Why? Because I love succubi. And just like the other ENET piece, there is a band-aid version as well as a nude version in Pixiv and Twitter. Other than that, I really like everything about this piece except for her collarbone. I believe that's what it's called. It just looks off. I'm pretty sure there should be it shouldn't be as straight as it is, and it's not rendered too well. It kind of looks flat in my opinion. Other than that, if I go back and fix that, I think it would be really nice of a piece. I'm gonna be honest with you. And then I gave a little bit of a spooky feel to this one. As you saw earlier, the background was just white because I was just focusing on the anatomy of it all. But I went back and kind of just threw textures on, threw a multiply layer, made the lighting a little bit cool, added glow. You know, there's a bit of little fun edits, but I think it's cool. You know, notice the hearts as well as the heart eyes. Yep. Probably in my top 2, maybe top 3-ish pieces I've done is this whole thing of Ina's. And I promise you, this is as horny as it gets. So moving on. Obviously, after that day, I kind of just wanted to make something with my brain off. So here is cute chibi Iris being Santa's #1 little helper. Nothing to say here. And these next few pieces are really scuffed. So this one was medieval, and I didn't want to draw any armor or knights because I knew that would take way too long for me personally. So I decided to make her a jester and make her kind of like an emo jester. Does it count? Borderline, I say it counts. So, you know, it's not bad. It's the pose is kind of cool. Thank you, Pinterest. And this is probably my least rendered piece ever for 31 days of HOLOctober. It's Fauna, of course, in a tennis outfit, like a tennis skirt. And this is just like the first sketch I had of it done, so nothing here at all. Then here is Lawyer Mume. The pose itself is meh. Okay, you know, let's just move on. Like I said, these are all just really rough sketches. You know, obligatory cashier crony asking if you would like to blend your Subway sandwich. It's pretty straightforward. It's everything about this is meh. The anatomy, the eye, it's kind of funny though. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if someone already did something like this, but first thing that came to my mind about cashier. Bodyguard Ame. Super cool. It's not a perfect piece, but her just putting on, like, you know, her suit jacket all cool like is, I think it's a cool idea. The face could, you know, do some work. It was my first time drawing something in this sort of pose where she's looking down but her eyes are up. I actually only added the background and the screen tones and highlights, like messy highlights, right before I posted this piece, and it's only because I saw this Sam Does Art piece and I was like, oh, let me steal that real quick. But I think those were great additions. Now Housewife Callie, this is exactly how I envisioned her, so I think this piece is pretty funny. I usually only take bits and pieces of other artists, but for this one, I just completely jacked the style of J.K. And I think it's pretty cool the way it turned out. The only thing that I can't believe I didn't notice is the fact that her chin, her face in general, and her collarbone, as well as her cleavage, do not line up. But that is something that can be fixed very easily in post, probably with just a liquefy tool, by moving her cleavage to the right a little bit. And you can't really tell on screen, but it says kiss in the full image, and it's kind of supposed to mean it's kind of supposed to be the apron that says like, you know, kiss the cook, kiss the chef, or whatever it says. So I think it's pretty cool. And here is Zeta again as a bartender. Now this, I tried to make a very complicated pose. I can't remember exactly what pose it was, but it was taking up too much time and I was already late at the time of drawing this. So I was like, it's fine. Let's just give her 3/4 pose and call it a day. And this one's a pretty funny piece of Ina. I remember the caption I gave was like POV, Ina catches you in class browsing fourth wall on Twitter or something along those lines. And, you know, blushing Takodachi and the cursed grimace Takodachi that Ame drew her, I think for Christmas a while ago, and fourth wall on the board, you know how it is. And for Gangster, the only thing I could think of was Gura from Q or Callie, but I drew so much Callie up to this point, so I was like, okay, I'll draw Gura. And I think it's pretty cool for the most part, but the reason why it's used, the only reason why it's like really bad watercolor is because I was trying Memento Mori out, which is like an idol gacha RPG game, and it has fantastic artwork and music, but the artwork is all in watercolor. So I was like, oh, watercolor's cool, let me try. Obviously, it does not look too well whenever I try it, but I'll definitely try more in the future. And this one is quite nasty, I'm not going to lie. I used more watercolor, as you can tell, but everything about this is just so, no, it's bad. But I wanted to draw Suisei at the time because it's whenever she came back for her return, and I watched her 3D live, and it was amazing. So I wanted to draw her, but it does not look good. And here, Shinigami Callie, of course, but I kind of drew her in the, kind of tried to make it Bleach-esque. Now, be honest, I don't know anything about Bleach, but everyone else was drawing their characters in Shinigami clothes, which I think are like the black outfits. I'm sorry, I could be completely wrong. It was either this or it was draw regular Callie. But, I wanted to draw something other than regular Callie. I used a 3D model for this because of the pose. It turns out not bad. It's not bad. This is the first sketch, so solid. And this is a redraw of a manga panel. And if you recognize it, it is from Chainsaw Man. And I've read all of part 1 of Chainsaw Man. Extremely good, by the way. It's probably not the first time you've heard that. But this is a redraw of the Angel Devil from Chainsaw Man, and I drew Ina instead. Instead of having the angel wings at the back, I drew her little like waist, lower back wings that she has. And it is a redraw, not like 100% 1-to-1, but I kind of just wanted to try out the manga style and use screen tones and all the cross hatching brushes that they use, and it was really fun to draw. Obviously, this isn't like the perfect manga page. But I think it still turned out pretty nice. The only thing I would change proportion wise is how big her hair and flaps look in this, and the fact that the pose looks a little bit too stiff, whereas in the original you can pretty much tell like their shoulders are kind of like up. But other than that, this was really fun to draw. I need to try to draw more in this style. And that brings us to day 31, which is one of my favorite pieces besides the Ina fourth wa one that I drew. But this Yofi piece was a free theme, and at the time I was drawing this, it was Pocky Day. So it was a no-brainer to draw her with a Pocky stick in her mouth. And I really love the way I did the eyes here. I did jacket from this artist, and if I didn't mention every artist I was referencing like heavy for specific pieces, I'll definitely have their handles up on the screen so you could check out their work. But of course I needed a 3D model to practice this. I just like majority of everything from this piece. I think it turned out really, really nice, and I'm glad it was like my last piece. And I took a little bit more time than I did on a lot of other pieces because it was the final day, and I was like, I'm gonna make it real nice because it's the last one, and it's a Yofi. So anyways, that is it for this one. I apologize if I was shotgunning everything a little too fast. I say that, and yet I'm creeping up to like half an hour on here. Hopefully it can be 20-ish minutes by the time I'm done editing this. But yeah, more art videos in the future. This challenge was awesome, even though, you know, I was late to it. I still was able to experiment a lot and learn a lot through the process. And I think the next video should probably be my 2-year digital art journey. And you can see where I started from there. Other than that, I don't want this video to drag out too long, so if you somehow stuck to the end, greatly appreciate it. If you even only saw a few minutes of this, I also greatly appreciate it. Check the descriptions if you want to follow my art. And yeah, that's about it. I will see y'all in the next one. Bye bye.